Hello and welcome to another episode of the Online Warriors podcast. It is date night number 2. Illegal is still in a far and away land, and the rest of the gang is holding it down. How we doing tonight, Nerdbomber?
I'm good. Illegal fell into a turkey hole, but wait, no, not like the Butterball workers. That have to be very clear.
Was there a thing that happened to Butterball workers?
Oh, you haven't seen that? I'm gonna let you Google that on your own. I would advise don't do it at work. Do it in a private place. And don't do anything in a private place. Just read the article in a private place or watch a video in a private place because it's not suitable for all intended audiences. But yeah, Illegal is not in that type of turkey hole. He's in a Thanksgiving, like sleepy, happy, fun, visiting family type hole. So he is not here with us today.
Now that we got through, I guess, thoughts and prayers to whatever happened to the turkey holes. But yeah.
I'm just inspect your frozen turkeys, folks. Inspect your frozen turkeys. Yikes.
One can dream. So it is just going to be the two of us. The date night saga continues. He will be back next week. Here's hoping, right? Because we all love him. He's our, we'll call him the talent as we did last week. But before we get into the show, I do want to ask a question, as we do, just to get our throat holes lubricated.
So many holes in this opener. Okay, let's go.
How are you faring with the winter and like dry hands?
Tired. Oh, dry hands.
Tired of this bullshit.
So far, my skin is not dry and chapped. It hasn't been super cold though. So I think we've talked about the fact that we're in the, tri-state northeast area of the United States, and it's not that cold. In fact, it's kind of been weird because we're creeping up. We're actually past like normal Thanksgiving time, and it is warm. Like we wake up in the morning and it's cold, but like daytime, it's like still 50s and 60s. So I am not dry hands chapped yet. I'm just cold as shit because not cold, sleepy. You can tell my sleepiness is coming through. It's dark by the time I get home and I just want to take a nap.
Oh no, not me. Well, one, my energy is still here, which like props to coffee and caffeine, but like I've reached baby hands era. I've got to start hand creaming it up because it's
hands. No, you're in like old man hands. You need baby hands.
It's so sensitive, and I hate this. I hate this part because I wash my hands probably more than your average person, just because I don't like the feeling of like greasy hands or anything like that.
Part of it's our dog's fault though. Like no matter how much we bathe him, he's getting old. So when you pet him, he gets your hands really greasy after a while.
I'm even talking like when I'm at work. Like I wash my hands like
what do you do with your hands? They're so greasy.
I just my natural oily self. I just need to wash my hands a lot. Whew. And it's just who I am. Also, like people are kind of gross, but I digress.
That's fair. Honestly, going into cold and flu season, like people are nasty, and I totally get that.
So cover your mouths, wash your hands, and we've got a kind of tangentially related show.
It's a Sony sandwich.
Well, no, to covering your mouth.
Oh,
because we're going to talk about someone called Hiccup, if you think about it. Yeah.
But do you cover your mouth during a hiccup? I don't.
I think so. I don't know. Well, either way, I don't mean the actual hiccup. I mean the dragon hiccup. So we're going to be talking about, we're getting a live action How to Train Your Dragon, which hype. We are going to talk about some potential distant future Sony news, but also something to get excited about. And we're going to wrap it up with another movie about an animated film that is getting a sequel. So to get excited about that. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is How to Train Your Dragon. So this is getting sort of an anime, kind of like the Simba. It's a live action. There's people, real people, but there is some animation there. Is how I'm going to describe it.
Spoiler alert, the dragons are not real. The dragons are CGI.
I needed to specify that it's not 100% live. But I do want to start with talking about the way that they did the dragons. They did not change the dragons at all, which is the correct move. And I'm not just talking about Hiccup here.
Toothless?
Toothless, thank you. I'm not just talking about Toothless here. They left every single dragon exactly the same, which is the right move. You can't get too like super realistic without completely departing from the source material. And this was the good call. This balanced it between live action, but staying true to the characters. One, because like it helps with like selling stuff, right? If you stay true to it, it helps. So,
well, also I think Toothless is super cute and it's such an iconic character. And I think if you tried to like realistic dragonfly him, which I know
Exactly,
dragons
more
aren't real.
merch. Keeping the dragons exactly the same is perfect, and maintaining their cute and lovableness is the right move. The thing that I really wanted to also talk about was the casting choice. So one of my favorite actors as far as like voice acting in the original animated one was TJ Miller. He played Tough Nut, and I was kind of stressing out that they were not going to find kind of that like goofy-ish. I don't want to call him goofy, but like that goofiest look, but also they can't just recast him because he's old. And the choice of Henry, I'm going to pronounce his name wrong, but Henry Trevelyan. Trevaldwin, thank you for saving
Harry
me.
Trevaldwin? Not even Henry. Harry Trevaldwin?
The choice of Harry Trevaldwin was excellent. He, in my head, he fits right into the role. So between the casting, the animation, the way, the look of this, the feel of this is going to be a banger.
I mean, you picked a very tertiary character to latch onto from a casting perspective. I would say the main actor that they got to play Hiccup is very much embodying the essence of the animated character. Obviously, you can't have a one-to-one translation of an animated figure into a real person, but I think in terms of his demeanor, his body build, his hair, even just the way that he was like talking and enunciated and seemed kind of timid, I think they did a really good job with the casting of Mason Thames for the main character of Hiccup here. I also thought it was really awesome that, so Gerard Butler was the voice actor for Chief Stoic, the Vast, in the movie, the animated movie, and he's actually going to be reprising his role here in the live action movie, which I think is also really, really cool and just a really good decision in my opinion. I think they're really trying to stay true to the source material and not deviate super far, which if Illegal was here, I'm going to play devil's advocate. That would beg the question, like, why are you making this movie in the first place? But I think it's just to bring new audiences to the source material. The original How to Train Your Dragons is getting a little bit old, as like much as I hate to admit that it is. Maybe this gives an opportunity for new audiences to find this awesome franchise, because it really is an awesome franchise.
You don't think that Gerard Butler's character should have been bigger and more brooding? Because his dad was huge.
I mean, I think they did some decent stuff. Like I'm pretty sure in the trailer they showed him with like the big prosthetics. Like I honestly didn't recognize it as Gerard Butler initially in the trailer. It wasn't until I went and, read about the casting that I realized that that was him. So I think they did a pretty good job translating him over.
Yeah, fair enough. I actually, to your point, I did not recognize him either. The other question that I really want to ask is, How to Train Your Dragon has become a successful trilogy. And with these kids being younger and also the movie How to Train Your Dragon, like the animated, they grew up. Do you think they're going to do the same where they're going to grow up with these kids, or do you think that's going to put like a stressful timeline on it?
I mean, I think we've seen a lot of movie franchises, a lot of TV shows manage to have their young characters grow with the franchise. Sometimes it doesn't always look super great. Like, I'm not going to lie to you, the next season of Stranger Things, I'm still really confused how they're going to, like, it has to be a time jump because those characters, the actors, grew up so much. But I think in something like this, like, maybe they're just going to keep it off as a one-off. Like, maybe they're not going to go and try to redo the entire franchise. Maybe they're just going to start with this one and see where it goes from there. And who knows? I mean, honestly, let's be real here. We don't see a lot of things getting quick sequels, and then oftentimes the franchise will die. So I'm honestly just excited. I'm only really thinking about this first iteration, and maybe they will have these actors maintain, growth throughout the franchise if they do continue it. But for now, I'm just excited to see the first one.
It's also worth noting, I don't know, should I spoil this if they haven't seen the animated, or?
I mean, I guess you can just say spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. Hiccup's going to lose his arm. And like that being like, it was like borderline, like, whoa, I can't believe they did it in the animated. In the live action, that's going to hit hard. This franchise just goes so hard. I'm so pumped. I have nothing but good things to say about this. The one bad thing I was going to say about Gerard Butler, you've convinced me is exclusively a good thing. So hats off to you.
I mean, honestly, I think they can probably do something, because this is not going to be like an adult movie. So I think they're going to probably do like a tactful fade to black sort of deal. And I don't know, I think it'll still hit. the whole arm thing. So if you have comments and you want to talk to us about, your thoughts on how to train your dragon live action, hit us up. We're primarily over at Blue Sky now, at onlinewarriors.bsky.social, at ownerdbomber.bsky.social, and at techtic.bsky.social. And we still are holding accounts over at X, at onlinewarriors1, at ownerdbomber, and at owtechtic.
Let us know if you think that there's something we should be nervous about, or if you're just as hyped as us. With that, we're going to roll on over to our next topic, which is that Sony is reportedly working on a handheld console.
To be clear, another handheld console, because the last one they gave us was the PlayStation Portal, which I think just came out within the last year. But the PlayStation Portal was interesting in that you could only stream games from your PS5. And they did recently update it, so now you can stream from your PlayStation Portal in the cloud, but you can't currently stream games that aren't on the PlayStation Plus catalog. So there's a lot of limitations if you're not in your home with what you can do with the PlayStation Portal.
Yeah, so this is really exciting to me because, in my opinion, PlayStation was like years ahead on the handheld game back in the day. And I'm going back to the PSP because...
The PS Vita too.
Well, I don't even want to talk about the PS Vita because in the time when the PSP came out, that thing let you freely explore the internet. You can store your photos, you can store music, you can do all these things that no one else was doing, and like no one had it. And it was crazy to me as a kid at the time that I had this like amazing piece of technology that no one, like no other friends, they were just like on their Game Boy or on their home consoles. I didn't have like many home consoles. I just had the GameCube. I didn't have everything else. But like this was art. Okay, and the fact that they're like moving forward and planning to take this seriously as a standalone console.
Well, to be clear, it's not going to be its own thing. So I think what killed the PSP and the PS Vita was that you had to get specific PSP games. You couldn't play the games for obvious reasons. At the time, like the internet was not a thing. You weren't really downloading games to your device at the time. You were playing things off a disc. So that thing was so small, you couldn't obviously stick a PlayStation 2 disc in it because like it wouldn't fit. Now, like most devices, you download the game, like you think about the Switch, the Steam Deck, you're downloading the games right to the device, even your consoles. You're not really playing off the disc anymore. A lot of people are digital. So having a handheld that can play PlayStation 5 games natively allows people to share their library so they can have their PlayStation 5 console, but they can also have now whatever new handheld this is, and their library can seamlessly transition between the two devices. And to me, I think that's what the PlayStation Portal should have been the entire time. Like, honestly, if I have a Steam Deck, and I think I said this when the PlayStation Portal came out, and there's no shade here, but if I have a Steam Deck, I don't know why I need a PlayStation Portal unless I really want the DualSense in a portable, like that haptic feedback. But I can stream my PlayStation 5 to almost any device as it is. You can stream it to a computer. You can stream it to any, PC type handheld. So I didn't see why this is necessary. But if you're telling me that I can go offline, go on an airplane, I'm not going to go on an airplane, but you could go on an airplane with a PlayStation 5 handheld and play that game without needing to be connected to the internet, without needing your PlayStation 5 at home to be on and running, like that's the sweet spot.
Peak. Now, do you think this is one more step forward in finally killing physical games?
I mean, I think it's tough because we see, especially with like the pro versions of consoles that are coming out and updated mid-cycle console upgrades, they are trying to do away with the disc drive. I mean, the PlayStation 5 Pro, you had to buy the disc drive separately. I think this is, yes, another step towards going all digital, but I'm still thinking that the physical media is going to die kicking and screaming. Like, I don't know how close we are to physical media going away. I'm still going to say the PlayStation 6 era will probably still have physical games, but I think they're going to anticipate that most people will play digitally, in my opinion. My question with this device, though, is like, so we are about halfway through, I think, this console life cycle. And I know it doesn't feel like it, like the whole COVID years really put like a weird time warp on everything. But these consoles came out, we're almost halfway through a typical console cycle here. So if this, handheld device came out and could run PlayStation 5 games natively, but then you knew within like a year or two you're going to get a PlayStation 6, would you invest in this handheld? Would you bother?
Me personally, I would, because I have I don't know, maybe let's unpack some childhood trauma. I don't know. But I do not like playing on the TV. I prefer to sit quietly in my corner and play on my handheld. That's why I love the Switch so much. So having the opportunity to play my PlayStation games completely disconnected, not having my PlayStation on, like a good little boy in the corner, is perfect for me.
The one thing that I would be interested to see, like if you can run PlayStation 5 games natively on a handheld, basically that could supplant the need, like you said, like you wouldn't need a PlayStation 5 that can connect to your TV at that point. You would play on your couch in the corner. But for people who maybe don't have a PS5 yet, who this would be their first foray into this console life cycle, or even a console in general, would they give us the ability to, you know, much like the Switch, dock it up, and then it could serve as your console?
If, in my opinion, because it's now going to be this potential competitor to the Switch, I think that's a requirement. It's not a nice to have, if I'm being honest. You have to not only meet what your competitors are doing, but like show we do this, and then to really kind of keep that competitive landscape.
I get what you're saying, but the PlayStation Portal, I would have told you that running games natively would have been, you know, a minimum requirement, and yet they didn't do that.
But you have to understand, it's at a time when they wanted to recoup their console sale loss, which, because generating a console, you go out at a loss and then you recoup over time through game sales, et cetera, et cetera. So they were probably trying to do it in basically a greedy stance to sell more consoles.
Basically selling you a tablet with a controller hooked up and calling it another
right
type of thing.
I'm not trying to say capitalism is going to capitalize, but...
But yeah, I mean, I think this is going to be really interesting. I do think, especially we've heard a lot of talk about, you know, Xbox and Microsoft working on some kind of handheld console as well. I do think the Switch did something revolutionary and they changed the industry. And I get that like the whole Steam TV thing before the Steam Deck was a idea like that existed. And this idea of basically having a smaller portable console. But I think Switch really, you know, innovated in having something that could be both portable and docked to your TV. And I do think that we're going to see that become more of the norm for consoles moving forward. I think, you know, your standard home console, and this is just all my supposition, but I think your standard home console, like the thing that you're going to bench under your television permanently, I think that's going to be for people who want that 4K experience. But I think we're going to start seeing Sony and Xbox. I mean, we already see Steam and Asus doing this, but I think we're going to see these lower grade, you know, graphics handheld systems coming out. And I think that's going to be probably a norm moving forward, instead of maybe having, you know, now I'm kind of looking at the Xbox. I know PlayStation didn't debut with a bunch of different weird iterations, but like Xbox came out with the Xbox One S and the Xbox One X, and now what are the Xbox Series S and the Xbox Series X? And I think instead of having those iterations, do away with that and you just have a handheld version or like deluxe pro version. And I think that's what we're going to probably start seeing in the foreseeable future.
I think this is really also highlighting the fact that there is like buckets of gamers, right? There are people that really want that high performance. You can see every detail on the screen because it's on your giant TV. And then there's the people, the casual people that just kind of like to sit quietly with maybe a pair of headphones in and just enjoy their games. It's really demonstrating that it's not a one size fits all, that it's a suite of things that people enjoy.
I would say, like, don't discredit yourself by calling yourself a casual if you just like handheld, because I don't think that makes you casual. I think how I've been sunk into Dragon Age for the past 2 weeks, I saw that same amount of fervor with you sitting handheld playing the last Zelda game. And I don't think that makes you casual. I think it's just how people consume media differently. And we see it even with like different age brackets, like kids and people with limited time tend to go towards those handheld devices. It
just feels like somehow a less time sink, even if you're playing for the same amount of time. I don't understand.
No, I totally get it, because it feels like, you know, you can do multiple things. Whereas when I'm on the TV using the PlayStation 5, I'm taking up the TV. And I get what you're saying. Like when you have a handheld device, you can also have the football game or the hockey game on, and you can kind of be like dual tasking there.
It also helps me focus having something else on in the background, which is also very weird. There's something there. But just handhelds all day. Thank you, PlayStation. Thank you, even Xbox, for like investigating this as a future technology.
Well, I mean, like I said, thank Nintendo. I mean,
Thank you, Nintendo, for being big dog.
Well, they have never, if you look at, I know we're kind of going on and on about this, but I always found this fascinating. Every other, video game manufacturers kind of dipped their toes into the handheld market. You had even like the Sega Game Gear, which I had and loved, but the thing was honking and the battery life was horrible. You also had the PSP, PS Vita, but Nintendo has been the only really, game company that has never deviated and given up on the handheld format. And I think now that allowed them to pioneer the, next step forward in the industry.
Agreed.
All right. So I think we can probably put a pin in that one unless you have any other thoughts.
Nope. We can pin it.
All right.
Up on the cockboard.
Pinned. And before we take our break, I would be remiss. I have to take Illegal's moniker there. I would be remiss if I did not shout out our fantastic Patreon producer, Mr. Steven Keller. Yeah, Mr. Steven Keller. Take a bow. Everybody give him a show of hands. He has been supporting us at the night level over on our Patreon for quite a while now. And as a knight, he gets input into our weekly game show, which we haven't had in a few weeks with Illegal being gone, but he will be back and it will come back. He also gets access to our secret segment every month and our monthly video vlog. And he also gets to occasionally guest star on the show. If you would like to be as cool as Steven, head on over to patreon.com/Online Warriors Podcast. You'll find 3 different tiers of support. There's the page, the squire, and the knight. All have different levels of rewards, and anything that you can subscribe helps us keep the lights on over here at Online Warriors Central. We appreciate each and every one of you, and especially Mr. Steven Keller.
Especially.
And now we'll take a break and we'll be right back.
Let's see, Alex. What do you think of Jaws, which is at 97% Rotten Tomatoes?
I find it to be anti-shark propaganda. What do you feel about the Entourage movie, which is at a meager 33%?
I think they finally got Hollywood right. How about It Follows, 97%?
Worse than your parents giving you the sex is evil talk. How do you feel about Juno, which is at 94%?
That would be a movie that celebrates a teenage homewrecker. How about Bewitched at 25%?
Best television adaptation ever put to film. How do you feel about American Hustle at a towering 93%?
Overwrought awards bait. Righteous Kill, 19%.
The movie that Michael Mann wishes he had made when he created Heat.
Sounds about right. I'm Julio.
I'm Alex, and we are the Contrarians.
As you can tell, our thing is that we rage against the Rotten Tomatoes machine.
Regardless of what we really feel.
Find us on Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Stitcher, TuneIn,
Facebook, Twitter, we're everywhere.
And we are back. So the last topic before we get into what are you up to Wednesday that we're going to talk about is we are getting a sequel to the animated film Bad Guys 2. And if you don't know about the Bad Guys, this was about a group of ruffians, and I use the term ruffians because they're led by a wolf. So there's a little pun there. I hope you enjoyed that. That were bad guys gone good. And it's about their transformation and realizing the wrong of their ways. And apparently, they're finding themselves back in some shenanigans again. And they've got to get back on the saddle. Now, I really enjoyed this one. I think this was fun for both kids and adults. The cast was led by the wolf is Sam Rockwell. Mr. Shark was Craig Robinson. And then just stop right there. Just those two leading the show. It just makes for a fantastic, almost like buddy comedy. And they're coming back with another one. And I just couldn't be more excited. Honestly, this episode overall is just like Hype City.
Do you notice, and this is going to be my attempt to see if he listens to the shows in his absence, I feel like Illegal sometimes is a negative Nelly. And I wonder.
Are we just the positive? Is this show just entirely good cop when he's not around?
I think so. And I wonder, do the people like it? Do the people like that je ne sais quoi bad copness that he brings to the show? I mean, I do. I think it leads to some compelling conversations. But I do feel like this is a very uplifting episode, and I don't know if it's the absence of him or the absence of the presence of, I don't know, the absence of our angst. I don't know.
I'm going to say the vibes, positive.
Which is interesting because I came into the show and Techtic can vouch for this. I was all sleepy and cranky, and I've perked up as the episode has gone on.
That's because you're just chit-chatting with me. I have that effect on people. So what are your thoughts on this movie?
Honestly, so Bad Guys, I think we saw this, and this is probably a little bit of an insight into, what we do sometimes. But I think we had been drinking a little bit of wine. And
What if it wasn't good when we watched it?
I know,
just
but
drunk.
we were like, we didn't know what to watch. I want to say we watched the original. We were still during COVID times because I don't remember when the original movie came out, but I feel like it predated 2020 and we had kind of put it off. And we had gotten to like the bottom of the barrel. We had watched everything that we had wanted to watch that was available on streaming. And we're just like, well, this looks fun, I guess. And then we ended up loving it. I distinctly remember this was like a sleeper hit of, that time period when we were watching movies. And I remember really, really enjoying it. I thought the humor was great. The voice cast was great. So I too am very excited for this sequel.
I thought this is what that like Fox and Bunny movie should have been.
Okay, do not hate on Zootopia. Don't hate on Zootopia.
That's right,
Because
it
I
was
thought
Zootopia.
Zootopia was also very, very
The best
good.
parts of Zootopia was like the tertiary parts with the other animals.
Okay, so I'm going to, retract my statement though. This actually came out in 2022. So I don't know, maybe we were just like at the bottom of our movie barrel though, coming off of COVID and we didn't have much to watch. But yeah, I don't know. I remember really liking it.
All right, I'm gonna do my best illegal. Who cares? We care. Okay, that's all I got in me.
I don't know. I don't mind. I know people probably are going to be like, oh, another sequel, but like, I don't mind this.
I mean, this episode is literally opening us up for more sequels, right? We're gonna see another time How to Train Your Dragon. We're gonna, we know it's gonna happen, and there's gonna be this. Like in a world of bad sequels, this content that we're discussing today is ripe for the pickings of good sequels. This isn't like I don't want to bash on other movies. Never mind. This is all positive vibes. This is good sequels and something we should get excited for. Let's just hope they don't ruin it.
Yeah, I do. One of the things, and this will be my slight Debbie Downer bent for this entire show. I remember back in like the 90s and 2000s, a lot of the times animated movie sequels just were not good. And I feel like that has kind of turned around in the last decade or so. But it used to be that animated movie sequels were just not good. And so I hope this doesn't fall down that trap. I mean, almost everything used to go like straight to VHS, although I will forever fall on the sword that Lion King 2, fantastic. Should not have gone straight to VHS. Should have been a movie
you have the hots
blockbuster.
for him. But the one thing I do want to say about this movie
Deception.
is
Disgrace.
they are potentially in an area that could make it bad in the fact that it does appear that they're going to walk back all character development. And so if there isn't like some undercover triple cross or something that shows that they were truly changed all along, that it's not just one more job, that needs to happen.
Well, I mean, then it kind of falls into the Fast and the Furious trap where I feel like every Fast and the Furious movie would be like, okay, we just have to do this one thing.
Just one more mission for family.
Somehow it ended up like Fast X up in space. And it was just like, what is happening?
Does your spacecraft keep all of the atmosphere in? We got a car.
Yeah.
So not much to say here. Like I said, they just need to make sure that they maintain character continuity, and this will be good. And I don't really want to belabor this point because I want to talk about what we've been up to. So what do you say?
All right, let's get into it. You go first.
So if you don't mind, yes, I will go first. The thing I want to talk about is really two things. The first one, we watched a little movie that I've been excited to watch for a while, and that is Argyle. This movie absolutely exceeded my expectations.
Really?
Hold on, let me start with the positive, and then we can throw in a contrarian take. It exceeded my expectations because I thought it was just gonna be real bad. Now,
okay, but when this trailer came out, before the movie came out, when the trailers launched, like I will go back in history, you said that you were very excited to watch this movie.
I was, but like cautious. I think I used the term cautiously optimistic. Is what I believe I had said, and we can roll back the tape if we like. Now, this movie, it was good, but you had to like separate from like logic. The first half I thought was stellar. It was an awesome concept, and then there was a point where it started to like
Go
get
off the
extra.
rails. They did too much.
And I don't want to spoil it because I still think you should absolutely check it out. There's fun to be had there, but yes, they did too much. And the thing that I really, really did not like is they opened it up as a sequel. And this should have been a standalone, just fun little action comedy thing, and then done. This is one where a sequel does not play well.
See, so I was definitely on board with the first, probably, I won't even call it half, because I think it was the first third of the movie. Because the premise of the movie is that you have this famous spy author, she writes spy thrillers, and suddenly a spy meets her on the train and defends her against all of these other bad spies, and it comes to fruition that she, in her writing, has been able to predict the bad spy rings' motives and like machinations and all of their things that they're doing. So because she's scarily able to predict what's going on, they both want her to help them solve, the case of a missing piece of valuable item that they want, I guess. That, great premise. Like, she was a fish out of water, being pulled into all of these situations. She was super uncomfortable. She had a cat in a backpack. Love that. 10 out of 10. If they would have just continued down that road for the entirety of the movie, I would have been on board. But then there's twisties after twisties, and I don't want to give too many spoilers, but there's just twisties after twisties after twisties, and with every twist, it just gets a little bit more far-fetched, and the movie takes a turn from, some semi-realistic action movie to just ridiculousness.
And it's not even the twists that were ridiculous. The twist was the catalyst to make the actions in the story more ridiculous. Like,
right.
Escape from physics kind of ridiculousness.
Like, there was at one point what felt like a 10-minute dance gun montage with colorful smoke, and it felt like it went on forever. And I was just so confused how we had got there and how it was just continuing to go on. And like visually, it was very dynamic and very stunning. But I was just like, how did we get here from where this movie started? And again, like, it wasn't horrible. I was entertained, but also, and this is something, I'll be illegal for a second, this did not need to be an almost 2.5 hour movie, because it was almost 2.5 hours.
They could have cut out the ice skating scene completely.
If they had stuck with the original premise of the movie, it could have been a tight 90 minutes that I found as entertaining as that Chris Evans spy movie that was on Apple TV, which the name I can't remember, but it would have probably fallen in that category as, this was fun, I enjoyed it, it won't be super memorable in like 5-10 years, but I had fun in the moment.
It'll be purged in 5 to 10 years.
So I was just a little bit disappointed, especially because this did have a really great cast. Like, John Cena was in it. Help me with the other names.
Henry Cavill.
Yeah, Henry Cavill.
Dua Lipa.
Malcolm in the Middle, Dad, Breaking Bad. Can't remember his name right now. I'm not a human IMDb, but all of these people, they even had Catherine O'Hara in it.
Just call him Walter White. It's an
Catherine O'Hara. Samuel L. Jackson was in it. Like, how do you flub that cast? And it kind of felt like they were just throwing cast at the wall with all of these ridiculous things and seeing what stuck. And I was just like, you wasted them.
Yeah. So we watched that. And the other thing is, I have been feverishly working on trying to make my own 3D platformer. And like, it's been like every waking minute of like available waking minute of every day. I'm like, oh, I'm going to work on this. Oh, I'm going to work on this. And I'm wondering when the crash is going to happen. If anyone's ever tried to make an indie game, it happens. I did it with my last 2D platformer thing that I tried. And with how aggressive I've been into it, it's got to be soon. And I'll probably be talking about some other game shortly.
While he's been doing that, so I'm going to tell you guys a fun story. So I broke a bone in my foot 8 months ago.
Parkouring.
We went on a little bit of a walk. It was like an 80-degree day in February. It was wild. We were like, we got to get out here. We got to see the world. It's been cold for so long. We have to get outside. So we went for a little bit of walk, and there was the tiniest bit of snow on the sidewalk. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to hop right over this. Not even like getting much vertical distance, just a little short hop over. And I came down on the ball of my foot, and I was like, ow, that really hurts. And Techtic basically had to help get me home because I could not walk. So the next day I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go to the doctor. I'm going to go to the urgent care. They x-ray my foot, and they're like, hey, you have a sprain. It's called sesamoiditis, inflammation. Go home, rice it. You'll be fine. So, over the last 8 months, it felt better, but still not like super great. We play volleyball. It was not healing super well. Every time I played volleyball, I'd be like, oof, that hurts. So I finally went to like non-urgent care doctor and come to find out there is a fracture in that bone called the sesamoid. So I am off my feet for the most part. I do have like a special shoe orthotic setup thing so I can walk around. But for the most part, I'm off my feet. So while he is doing his tinkering, I'm basically just balls deep into Dragon Age. And
But
sorry,
not on the balls of her feet.
no, not on the balls of my feet. Oh, look at that. I like that pun. Ooh, very great. I'm enjoying it. I really, now that I'm about, I think 50 hours into the game, I don't understand what people didn't like it. And I shouldn't read too far into other people's reviews. I know everybody has their own opinion, but to me, this is a very classic BioWare game. It's not as open world as Mass Effect 2, but the companion quests and the companion storylines and how much you need to invest in your companions reminds me so much of Mass Effect 2. And that was like my bread and butter. I love digging into good character conversations. I love checking on my people back at my home base between missions. I love freaking side missions. I'm doing all the side missions. I've beaten 3 dragons so far. It's not even part of the main story. I'm just finding dragons and they're way above my level. And I'm just like, let's go. I don't know. I'm really having a good time with it. I think the combat's super punchy. I really like the skill tree. I am playing as I believe it's a warrior. I don't remember the classes, but I'm basically, sword shield. But the fact that there's some like magical aspects, like I'm basically a Reaper specialization. So I'm throwing like necrotic magic at people and then, siphoning their life force, which is really cool. Everything just plays super well. I have no issues with the combat. I've had no bugs in this game. Some of the cutscenes, like there's a little bit of that, uncanny valleyness, but once you like lock in what your character is supposed to look like, I find that goes away. And honestly, even like, I don't know, in every BioWare and Mass Effect game, in every BioWare game, you gotta romance a character. And I got my wifey, Nev, out here. People don't like her. I love her. We're both shadow dragons. That's really where the crux of our relationships are. We're both shadow dragons who love Minrathous. So I don't know. It's just, I'm having a lot of fun with it. I know I have a lot more game to go because I'm that type of person where I'm smashing every crate. Like the world is burning around me and I'm like, hold up. I gotta look in this crate. I gotta make sure there's no gold in there. So I'm that person. I'm taking my time with it. I'm really enjoying it. But then to kind of complement that, we're watching Vox Machina Season 3. I know we said that we had started it last week. We're almost done with this season. And man, when I tell
voices.
you... What?
The voices are even so paralleled.
Yeah, everything. Like, there's dragons, there's obviously elves and magic, and there's... I'm in my, like, fantasy era right now. I freaking love it. Vox Machina is really great. I feel like this season, it took me a couple episodes to really get back into the story and what was going on. But once we did, like, I'm here for it. They're building relationships amongst the characters. There's some plot twisty things that are coming that neither Techtic or I expected. Like Techtic, there was one episode, and I'm not going to spoil it, but we both like ended the episode. And we're like, wow, we did not think that they were going to go there, but they did. And I'm really enjoying it. And it's great. If you haven't watched Vox Machina, it's the Critical Role animated series on Prime. The 3rd season just came out. Definitely recommend. Techtic, would you recommend?
Definitely would recommend it. And I actually recommended it to a friend today.
Did you?
I did. Shout out to friend.
Hope you listen. I hope you like it. So with that, Techtic, do you have any other things that you would like to talk about before we wrap up this episode? The last one without illegal.
I think you ended on a really good shout out. Shout out to Vox Machina. Please check that out. This is like, we cannot recommend this highly enough.
And it also makes Critical Role very accessible because Critical Role is a podcast of a bunch of voice actors who come together and play, role-playing games. And I think they have like 20 some podcast seasons. I mean, they basically tell incredible vast stories and run through multiple campaigns, and there's characters that come in and out and voice actors that come in and out and join. And I've always wanted to start listening to it, but the amount of episodes and content that they have has been super daunting. And it really wasn't until, Vox Machina hit on Amazon that I was like, this is a really accessible way to get into the world of Critical Role. So if you're looking for your in, this is also a good way to do that. And with that, we would like to bid you all in the United States a wonderful Thanksgiving. I know this is coming out the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. Hopefully you have good food, good family, good times in your future. Even if you don't have any of those things, maybe you'll have some good video game time, or maybe some good TV time, or maybe you'll go see a good movie. Hopefully you enjoy your long weekend if you get one. And we will be back here next week with Illegal, holding him hostage, even if he doesn't want to be here. Because
Yeah, that's correct.
we need that negative Nancy energy to come back into our lives. I'm just kidding. We love him. But yeah, we'll be back next week. And until then, happy Thanksgiving.
And stay safe and keep on podcasting.